Hello everyone. Another me yapping at the camera style video today about football. I've been recording gaming videos over the summer, but none of them have been like good enough for me to want to upload. I don't know why I care now. I used to throw slop on YouTube like it was nobody's business, but now I'm like, this video is a little boring, so I think I'm just gonna scrap it again. And trust me, I've recorded probably about 5 or 6 live stream style videos that are like 4 to 5 hours long and just hit the delete button on them just because I wasn't feeling it. I didn't think it was that good. But maybe one day I'll actually upload those videos. For now, I'm just recording to myself. But today, a little football speculation. 'Tis the season. Today I'm going to be going over the entirety of the NFC North and predicting what everybody's records are going to be. For those who don't know me, I'm a Minnesotan, so the Vikings are my team. Ignore this poster over here. I had a little Raiders stint for a while, and my parents ended up buying me more Raiders merch than Vikings merch, so I have a pennant over here that's Raiders. And I think I have like a Raiders football helmet tucked away somewhere and a Raiders sweatshirt as well, but nothing for the Vikings. It's kind of funny. Okay, but I'm going to start with the Vikings. The Vikings are probably the hardest one to rank, and it's the one where I'm going to get a little homer on it and probably say we're going to win some that we might not actually win. Okay, but starting off, we have the first Monday night football game at the Bears. That one is kind of a toss-up because we are adjusting to a new quarterback. They're adjusting to a new offensive scheme. I think I would like to believe the Vikings can take that one, but that's really one that I think could go either way because it's going to be pretty much like practically a preseason game for both of us, IMO. I'm going to say the Vikings win that one just because. Then the next game, the Falcons. I think the Vikings win that one as well. I think the Falcons are going to be a pretty middling team, and that one's at home for us, so we get a little bit of an edge. I don't think Penix is anything that special. I think we'll be just fine on that one. Then we have to go against the Bengals. That is a fat rip. I don't think we stand a chance. That could be one of those games. Like the Vikings have like one game a year that they're not supposed to win, and then they just go out and win. Like 2 years ago when we still had Cousins, it was the 49ers game that like it was supposed to be like a blowout, and we like blew them out. So it seems like every year there's like one game the Vikings aren't supposed to win that they win, and that could be this Bengals game. But I'm going to play it safe and say there's no chance, no shot. They are going to drop like 50 points on us. Maybe even worse. It might be like that one Dolphins game. But that is not going to be ideal. At Steelers. Or is that must be one of the, whatever they're called, overseas games, because it's an 8:30 a.m. game. But Steelers. The Steelers are it depends on how good Aaron Rodgers ends up being, and I don't think he's going to be all that. I think it's going to be similar to, like, honestly, Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers is like just a slight bump up from him being on the Jets. Like, I don't like the Steelers are another team that are carried by their defense. They haven't had a good quarterback in a long time, but they still manage to finish above 500 every year. I think the Vikings win against the Steelers. Personally, I think the defense carries that game kind of similarly to what happened against the Jets last year, and we end up winning that game. Browns, it's kind of similar, but worse. I think the Browns are worse than the Steelers. Their quarterback situation isn't dicey because Flacco's good. He's just old. And I think we'll do fine in that game. So that's, so far at week 5, we're sitting at 3 wins, 1 loss. I think the beginning of the season is pretty good for the Vikings. Trust me, I'm not going to go all homer and say they're going whatever it would be, only losing one game. We're getting into some dicey territory now with the Eagles. The Eagles playing here at the Vikings. I think that's similar to the Bengals game where it's like, I'd like to believe, but I really don't think there's a chance. Like, no shot we can win that game. Well, I don't want to say no shot. Do I want to go crazy and say we win that one? No, I don't. I think we lose that one. I was just kind of like comparing the Bengals versus the Eagles to try to think of who's like the better team, the better offense more so, because I think like it's more so like our defense is going to be what wins us games this year, I think, especially in the beginning as McCarthy gets used to it. The Bengals have one of the most terrifying passing offenses in the entire league, while the Eagles have one of the most terrifying rushing offenses in the league. So it's like, pick your poison. I think Barkley is going to run all over us. He'll probably go for like 200 yards or something. Chargers, at Chargers, Thursday Night Football. That's one of those that's up in the air. I'm going to say the Vikings win. I would compare the Chargers to us. Like, I think the Chargers and the Vikings have a lot in common. But I think the Vikings have got that one. Lions. I don't want to speak too soon, but I honestly think the Bears and the Packers might be a bigger threat than the Lions this year for the division. But this is at Lions. It's week 9. So we're at the point where we settled into the year. I'm going to say we win. I'm going to say we sweep the Lions. We'll get to the other game later, but I'm going to say we sweep the Lions this year. Like that's probably the most outlandish take I'm going to have during this. Like everything else is like lukewarm takes, but I think the Vikings can sweep the Lions. Ravens. We have some really bad home games this year. Like we have to play the Bengals, Eagles, and Ravens. That's kind of cringe. We are not, again, we do not stand a chance against the Ravens, I don't think. Although I think it was a couple years ago the Vikings played the Ravens, and I didn't watch the game because I didn't think we had a chance and I was somewhere else. But I like watched the stats, and it ended up, I think, coming down to overtime maybe. I can't remember for sure. Well, they have Derrick Henry now as well. I was going to say, I feel like our defensive coordinator is pretty good at shutting down quarterbacks, so maybe we can hold Lamar, but they have Derrick Henry, so what can you do there? Again, lukewarm take, but I think we're going to lose that too. So I only have us losing the obvious 3 games right now, the Bengals, Eagles, and Ravens. Then we go to Bears at Vikings. I'm actually going to say that we lose to them at home. I'm going to say we beat the Bears week 1, and then they come back with a vengeance and beat us in week 11. I think it's been a really long time since the Bears have beaten the Vikings at home, or beaten the Vikings in US Bank Stadium. But I think this would be the year that it would happen, because I think we're going to be we're both going to be pretty discombobulated the first game. It's going to be, like I said, McCarthy's first full game and the Bears' first game under the new head coach. I think it's going to be dicey for both of us in a really unclean game. But I think we pull out on top of that one, and then I'll give the Bears the win against us at home. At Packers, I think we lose that. I think the Packers are a really strong team this year. It would have been better to face them earlier on because I don't think um I think they have a lot of receivers hurt right now is what the deal is. It would have been better to have faced them earlier on in the year, but we have to wait until week 12, and that's when it's cold as well and you have to play outdoors at the Packers. I think we will lose that game. I'm not confident that we'll lose, but I do think we'll lose. Then we kind of have a pretty easy string towards the end of the season. At Seahawks, I think we beat the Seahawks relatively, like, handily. The Commanders, this is going to be my, like, not hot take, but slightly above lukewarm take. I think the Vikings are going to beat the Commanders. It's a home game for the Vikings. I think we can take them. We'll see, but I'd like to believe that we can beat the Commanders at home. Cowboys are going to be trash this year. They might have an offense, but I don't really see them having much of a defense. I think they're going to be really bad. And Cowboys are going to be like on the watch for like one of the worst teams in the NFL next year, I think. So we'll win that one. And then Giants, again, that's going to be basically I don't want to say a free game because there's no free games in the NFL, but the Vikings are going to beat the Giants. Like, I don't really have a question about that. And then, like I said, for the Christmas Day game, I think the Vikings will beat the Lions. I think we sweep the Lions. And then the last game of the season, it's tough to say. I think we win either way. It's the Vikings at home against the Packers. I think we win either way, whether the starters are being rested or not at home against them. But I'm not 100% confident on that one. So I have us winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is pretty high, 12 wins. And how many losses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 12 and 5 on the season is my current prediction. That seems really high, like when I say it out loud. But honestly, the teams that I feel like I don't have any like really hot takes with mine other than like beating the Commanders and sweeping the Lions. I feel like those are my only hot takes, really. Let's take a look at the Packers schedule. It's going to be a long video speculation. Packers start at home against the Lions. I think they win. I'm going to go faster through the other teams because my team was the Vikings. Sorry. I think the Packers beat the Lions at home. I think the Packers also beat the Commanders at home, and the Browns, and the Cowboys. The Bengals is going to be a tough one for them. Do they beat the Bengals? I don't think so. The Bengals always have a slow start, but this is week 6 that they're facing them in. I don't think they beat them. I think the Bengals will be the Packers' first loss. So they go 4 and then 4-1. They beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I don't think, are going to be making too much of a splash this year. They'll just be mid as usual. Steelers, Packers will beat the Steelers. They will beat the Panthers as well. The Panthers are kind of an interesting one because they started trending up last year. That'll be one to watch. The Packers lose to the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Beat the Giants. I think the Packers, like I said, the Packers beat the Vikings at home. I think they lose to the Lions away. I think they'll lose their away game to the Lions. And they beat the Bears at home. I actually am going to say a hot take here. I think they lose to the Broncos. I think they'll lose to the Broncos in week 15. And lose to the Bears when it's at the Bears. and then lose to the Ravens. I think they're gonna go like this is again a really hot take, and this might not happen, but I'm foreseeing a 4-game losing streak at the end of the Packers season. Broncos, Bears, Ravens, and then Vikings. I think they lose all 4 of those, which might in turn actually make them beat us if that actually happened, but because they wouldn't be resting their starters, but that's the prediction I'm sticking with. So I have the Packers winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. 10 and 2, 3, 4. Is that 6? 10 and, or is it 10 and 7? It would have to be 10 and 7, right? Yeah. 10 and 7. That feels wrong, but I just feel like the Broncos are a better team than the Chargers, so that's where you get the flip-flop. And I think the Packers are going to lose one to the Lions, whereas I have the Vikings sweeping. That's the difference maker there. Let's look at the Lions. So the Lions, like I said, are going to lose to the Packers. I think they beat the Bears in week 2. Do not beat the Ravens. They beat the Browns. They do not beat the Bengals. They do not beat the Chiefs. They have a really hard stretch there. They play Ravens, Bengals, and Chiefs all away in 4 weeks. That's rough. Buccaneers, that's an interesting one. How good do I think the Bucs will be this year? Good enough to beat the Lions? My hot take is yes. I'm going to say they're going to beat the Lions that week for Monday Night Football. And then we beat them as well. I think they beat the Commanders. They lose to the Eagles. And they beat the Giants. They beat the Packers. They beat the Cowboys. And they beat the Rams. I don't think they lose to the Rams. Steelers, again, they win. The Vikings, they lose to. And then that last week of the season, it depends. They're playing at Bears. It depends on who has something to play for and who doesn't. But like without that in mind, I think it'll be interesting. I think the Bears might win. I'll give the Bears the win on that one. So I have the Lions actually ending up in last place, I'm pretty sure. Because they win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have them going literally 8 and 9. I have them going 8 and 9. I wasn't thinking about that as I was doing it. I guess I have them at a losing record. Hot take. That's probably my biggest hot take, is having the Lions coming down from top of the division to last place with a losing record. I'm guessing like I picked like what I feel are obvious losses for them, other than maybe the Buccaneers. But I feel like they'll win at least one of those. Like right now, I have them starting the season, 2 and 2 and 6 to start the season by week 10. Like they have a really tough beginning of the year stretch, but I feel like they might crank out 1 or 2 other wins in those first groupings, but I just calling it as I see it, like not considering momentum of the season or anything like that. Let's look at the Bears, last but not least. The Bears have an easy schedule, easy-ish. Well, they don't have it that well. There are 2 games I'm seeing on here that are much easier than the others in the division. Like I said, I think the Vikings will beat them that first game. So the Bears lose the first game. They lose the second one against the Lions to stay consistent. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Raiders. Commanders is a tough one. Does the whole division beat the Commanders? I feel like it's only fair to say yes, because like if the Lions can beat them, I think the Bears can beat them. Let's have the Bears beat the Commanders. The Bears will beat the Saints as well. I don't think they beat the Ravens or the Bengals, especially since those are both away games. They do beat the Giants. And like I said, I think they sneakily take that one at the Vikings. I think they take that one. They beat the Steelers. They do not beat the Eagles. I can't remember how I handled the Packers. I think I have them splitting, where the Packers beat them at home but not away. So they lose when they go to the Packers. They beat the Browns. And then they win when they are at home against the Packers. And I think they beat the 49ers. I think the 49ers are kind of, their window is closing. They're going downhill. And then that last game of the season against the Lions, I think the Bears win. So I have the Bears at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 and, would that be 6? 11 and 6. So I guess with my current standings, I have the Vikings at the top. I wonder who I'm cheering for. The Vikings at the top at 12 and 5. The Bears in second at 11 and 6. The Packers in third at 10 and 7. And then the Lions in last. And I think, was it 8 and 9? Yeah, 8 and 9. Pretty hot takes, but we'll see. This season's going to be really interesting for our division because there were a lot of changes made around pretty much everybody. The Vikings have a rookie quarterback. The Packers, nothing really changed. It's just they got Parsons, which is a pretty big deal, but how much can one guy do? He can do a lot, but he's only on one side of the ball too. He's not Travis Hunter. The Lions have lost a lot. I feel like they lost a lot on the offensive line specifically, which was their centerpiece really. And then the Bears, who got an entire new coach. And I think that'll go well for them. But that's all. You can share your grievances in the comments because I'm sure plenty of people disagree with me, especially if you're a Lions fan. But I appreciate more engagement. So keep them coming. But thank you for watching. Peace out. We'll see how right I was.